I'm Sycra, and today I'm going to be showing you some traditional drawing techniques. So first I'm going to show you how to hold a pencil and how not to hold a pencil. Alright, so the way I wouldn't recommend holding a pencil, and right now I'm working on a vertical surface. It doesn't matter if it's vertical or horizontal. Just for the sake of this, I'm going to use a vertical surface. I usually work in either one, so that's not a big deal. But I'm just going to show you how not to hold a pencil. Okay, so when most people start drawing, they think of it like a writing instrument. And they draw the same way, as if they're just writing. And the problem with this is it's very stiff. When you write, you're just using your finger in like this motion. So the lines I can get using a comfortable motion are about that wide. Let's say we start incorporating the wrist. Then I get lines, like comfortable lines from, here to here. If I bring the elbow in, then, okay, now I have all this. It actually goes, way off the page. If I bring my shoulder in, then I can get way better lines. The thing you definitely don't want to do, though, is use two points of motion. So I don't want to be moving my finger and my wrist at the same time. You can do that a bit, but I would rather just either use my wrist or use my elbow or use my shoulder, and then everything else kind of stays stiff. Alright, so there's an exercise you can do, or a bunch of exercises you can do to get better lines. One of them is to draw parallel lines. So you start with a line and then try and make lines parallel to that. See, I'll try and keep this distance equal, throughout. The other way is you can put down a dot and put down another dot, and this is to get your angles right. And then you ghost over it, meaning you're not actually putting down a line, you're just getting the motion, and then you try and connect them. The other thing you can do is put down 3 dots, and then you're trying to ghost over a curve. So you try and connect those dots. So that one wasn't very good there, that's a bit better. But that's just to practice motion with your hand. Okay, now I want to talk about erasers. So there's this basic type. I like the Staedtler Mars plastic, and that's to get rid of everything, and then there's this other type, and you don't use them the same way. You can use them a similar way, but you wouldn't just take this, for instance, and then just, do this. It doesn't exactly work. The way you work a kneaded eraser is first you work it. So stretch it out and get it warm. And this is also how you clean it, is by stretching it. And usually I'll just have it in my hand so it stays nice and warm. And this is more either to get precision, so I can, make a tip and then erase a part of it, or it's to lighten an area. So let's say I don't want to get rid of this, I just want to make all this part one value lighter. So what I'm going to do is just make it into a flat shape, like that, and then just press against and pull off, what you want, and that's going to lighten it. And you can, tap it or whatever. And if I want to erase it, then yes, I can, make it into a shape and then actually erase parts as well. So it's effective either way. It's very good. And then just remember to clean it. And also, when I can't get things right, it's like a stress ball. Alright, so now I want to show you how to go about sharpening your pencil. Now for this, I'm going to be using an X-Acto knife. And you could use an X-Acto knife. You can use a box cutter, works just as well. Pretty much any knife that's, not serrated, just needs a good point. And I also use, electric sharpeners and whatever, but often I do it this way. So the important thing when sharpening in this way is, first of all, be safe. Second of all, I'm not actually going to sharpen off the lead like this. I'm not moving the knife. The knife stays still. What I'm moving is the pencil underneath. So I have the pencil in my 4 fingers, right? And then my thumb is on top. And then I'm using my thumb against this knife, and this stays still, and then I just, using that motion, you know, pulling back with my wrist and my fingers, I'm going to move it against. So this is what it's going to look like. So I start by just cutting out an area around, and I'm turning the pencil, and this is something I do when I draw as well. I usually spin the pencil around, but I'll show you that after. And then, so now I have an area that's, you know, a little bit cut, and then I just move closer to the lead as I spin it. And it's just shaving more and more off, and then eventually you will get to the lead. With softer pencils you'll get to the lead sooner. Harder pencils tend to have a more dense lead. So this is the first step. So now I have a pretty good point on this pencil. And now I'll show you how to go about sharpening it further. Okay, so when I want to sharpen it further, like this is okay, I can use this kind of dull thing and it's alright. But when I want to get it really sharp, what I do is I hold it down against a paper, and then I take my knife and I'm going to just spin the pencil and then use the knife to get a nice point on that. And using this method, you can get it pretty sharp. With knives, you can get pencils sharper than just normal sharpeners. And it takes a while, but eventually you can get a pretty nice point. So as you can see, it gets pretty sharp, and also I have quite a bit of lead that I can shade with. Alright, so now that I have so much lead, when I shade, I can, you know, shade much faster because I have a lot more lead to use. And the thing I do when I shade is I do this, you know, that U shape, but I'm also spinning my pencil as I do it. Like every few strokes. See, you'll notice, I don't know if you can pick that up, but I am actually spinning it. And I'll do that, and then, you know, spin it. And also, because I have such a sharp point here, I can create very thin lines. Now, the way to create a very thin line that's consistent is also to spin it. So you drag it, what would that be, perpendicular, I guess, to where the pencil touches. And then I don't just do this and make a thin line. It probably is not going to show, but you'll have to trust me that there's a thin line there. But I spin it as I go straight down. And this, it's not easy to create a very straight line. You can get closer to the tip, and then you have more control. But what it does do is it creates a very consistent thin line. You don't get any fat to thin. It's just really solid and consistent. Alright, now I just want to talk a little bit about the different types of pencils. You know, you have your HB, 2B, I have a B here, a 3B, so start with the HB. And there's a comfortable value that you can shade at. And that's when it's not too, like when it doesn't damage the paper, that's a comfortable value. If you have to press really hard, like this is an HB. When I press super hard, it gets quite dark. but that's not very comfortable. And as you can see, it's going to pick up some glare. I don't know if you can see it, but the way I see it, there's lots of glare. But this is much more comfortable, and this is kind of the comfortable range for an HB. Now with a B, the range is going to be pretty similar. It's a little bit darker. So that's the comfortable range. And then that's the, pressing way too hard range. But it can get that dark. So it's important to know that you potentially can get that dark. But again, you're damaging the paper, so it's not a good idea. 2B. Here's the comfortable range. And again, I'm spinning my paper, or my pencil, as I do this. And then here's the darker range as I press hard. And you'll notice as I get to softer pencils, and the B stands for bold or black, and the H stands for hard. As I get to the softer pencils, this harder pressing one doesn't damage the paper so much because the pencil's soft. When it's very hard, it will really mess up the tooth of the paper. So 3B. That's the comfortable range. And then pressing really hard. That's as dark as it can go. And now let's just go to a 7B. And 7Bs, I skipped quite a few steps, 4B, 5B, 6B. But when you get to a 7B, I don't even think this is just graphite. It's almost similar to charcoal. I think this is a carbon, like a different kind of, and when I go hard, then it is pretty black. Like if you compare this black to that, there's just, like, this is much, much darker. So that's just a range. I tend not to use this. I used to use this when I did traditional drawings on good quality paper. This is not good quality paper. This is just animation paper. It's pretty basic. But yeah, then I would use multiple ones. But right now I tend to use 2Bs or 3Bs. That's really where I stick with. It's just 2 or 3B. I don't like to go too far black or H's. I'll only use on Bristol board. So if I'm doing comic book penciling, I'll use an H or a 2H. But otherwise, yeah, I tend not to.
Alright, so that's pretty much it. And then I just wanted to show you real quick how I would, more often draw, which is more comfortable and not at a drawing table. I tend to just draw like this or in bed, and can use my whole arm. Everything's fine. Draw like whatever, and yeah, so you don't have to use fancy stuff, and I think that's it. So hope you learned something, and thanks for watching.